I just hit record, but we haven't actually started yet. So.
Good job, we just fucked it up.
Yeah,
Blew the mic.
let's fuck podcasting. We fucked it up. Hey guys, welcome to Orc-Chop Express Per Diem. I'm your podmaster, Michael Goodman, and I'm joined by two of our Orc-Chop Express DMs this evening. I have James Houlihan. You want to say hi?
Hey, everybody.
And Brett Rude.
Hello.
So really quick, I sent out a tweet to Chris Perkins, and he was kind enough to respond. And I want to use kind of this scenario to just jump into it. And you guys can't say something in the form of a tweet or in the space of it. So I'm gonna say, in the form of a quick statement, what is your advice for a first time player? James, you start off.
First time player of D&D.
Yeah, first game ever. Like going in, they have no idea what they're doing. What's your advice in the quickest statement possible?
Don't worry about the rules. That's probably the most intimidating thing for people, and it's honestly the least important as far as being a new player. It's just this sounds bad, but to try and fit in, but just making sure your character is solid and you get your background kind of sorted out. Work with the DM to do that, and mostly it's just hang back and see how it's done, and don't fuck everything up.
Sure.
That's really
Don't
it.
fuck up.
Yeah.
How about that for the tweet? Just don't fuck
yeah.
up.
Don't fuck.
Don't fuck everything up.
Just everything's riding on you.
What do you think?
Mine would probably be. Yeah, when you said don't worry about the rules, that's pretty perfect. Don't worry about the rules, and just don't worry about surviving. Yeah.
You're expendable.
Yeah.
You just started.
Well, that's the thing. And just do whatever you want. Don't worry about what you think you should be doing at any given moment. Just do whatever you want, because it's all about learning the idea of you're in this world space, and it's not like a video game, and it's not like really anything else. You can do anything you want. I think when I run new players, oftentimes I look at them and say, okay, so, we're in this room, and you see all this stuff. What would you like to do? And they freeze, they pause. They have no idea, what should I do? Don't worry about what you should do. What do you want to do? You could just walk out of the room. You could light it on fire or search it for treasure.
I still don't know what to do.
Yeah, that's kind of also, that ties almost to just don't overthink things. And it's somewhat related to the rules, the rule thing of don't worry about the rules. Also, don't worry about what you should be doing. Just do what you want. Yeah.
I guess it's hard though for a first time player. I mean, me being the more new person, I can relate a little bit. Like I have no idea what I can and can't do, and it sounds silly because it's supposed to be like kind of an environment where you can do whatever you can think of, but I almost don't know what to think of.
That's where it also comes back to watching the others, right? Like, if you're in a group where you've got experienced players mixed with new players, it's an ideal environment to me anyways, just because then the new player can see, oh, here's this person who's been playing for a long time. Oh, he just did this cool thing. I didn't know you could do that. Or, hey, he just asked the DM this question. And it makes it a lot easier because you can pick up good habits. And also part of that is having an experienced DM and experienced players to kind of slap your wrist when you do something bad, whether or not you know why.
Mm-hmm.
If you're taking actions for player motivation rather than character, it's stuff like that. It's kind of their job to keep new players on the straight and narrow.
Sure.
Because if you're new, you just don't know any better. You're just like, whatever, I'm just playing this game.
Yeah. Well, Chris Perkins did it a lot shorter in a tweet, but
Yeah, I'm pretty new together, so...
but he was really cool to respond. He said, "Don't try to create the perfect character. A flawed character is much more fun and memorable," which I thought was pretty good. And then we had a couple other
Wisdom for 3. Or wisdom of 3, rather.
Yeah, well, let's not talk about that. And then there was a couple other people that joined in on the conversation. I only pulled one to mention. I thought his was pretty good. At Darth Kevin said, "Pick a character or class that is fun for you. Don't worry about filling a specific party role." But I remember I read that tweet out loud, and John King, one of our other DMs, he was super against that statement. Actually, what do you guys think about that statement?
I see I can understand the sentiment that good old Darth Kevin is throwing out there, because ultimately you should be playing the character you want to play. I don't know so much that kind of extends to the class, because there is such a thing as party balance. Like if you walk into the the Temple of Undead Doom and you're all rogues or something, and no one can heal, no one can turn undead, you're pretty fucked. That's just how it is. So I'd say that's accurate as insofar as like character background, right? Like I want to make a cool Viking warrior. That's kind of the essence of your character. That could be a cleric who worships like Odin or whatever. It could be a berserker, like a barbarian. It could be a lot of things. So I mean, I think that's where it's more accurate. Play the character you want, but as far as class, it's a game. There are rules. You kind of do have to make considerations.
I agree and disagree. In that, in a perfect situation, like you said, you're going to have experienced players with new players. And the experienced players are going to be kind of curtailing their characters to fit some roles to make more of a balanced thing, which should allow the new players just to do whatever they want. But another thing, if you had an entire group that was all warlocks, and yeah. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Warlocks are pretty awesome.
So much agonizing ball.
Just be
seeing the both sides of it,
Yeah. But say everything's 100% warlock, then I would say that it would be kind of the DM's responsibility
that's true.
to bend the adventure a little bit and make sure that you're not going against something that they can't do anything against. Like I was reading about this one creature that's completely immune to magic of all kinds. So maybe you shouldn't put that creature in there. That might not be a good one. That might be a total party killer right there. And then because it's ultimately just to have fun. So
whip out your daggers, boys.
Yeah.
Let's jump into what we're excited about this week. So let's start with Brett. What are you excited about this week?
Well, one of the things I'm excited about is I just got this new, I'm calling it a DM screen, but it's just a toy castle that my kids are quite jealous of. I got this
pretty
big
Grayskull-esque.
Yeah. So
it is pretty awesome.
It's this German toy company, Schleich, I think is how it's pronounced.
You probably pronounced it really wrong.
Yeah, it's probably Schlong, I don't know, but
I'm more of like a Klingon edge.
Schleich.
There you go.
They make these really unposable action figures, and yeah, it's pretty great. But I saw it online real cheap, so I picked it up and.
No, you say imposable. I say durable.
Yes, true. But my G.I. Joes have been doing just fine.
That's true.
In their cryogenic
fingers will outlast anything.
Yeah. So yeah, I got this castle. Because we didn't have a truly serviceable DM screen or anything that I thought should really be on this cool table that we have. So I got this. It's still just its basic color because I got it yesterday, but I'm gonna paint it up and add moss and other dry brush and make it look cool. I'm gonna put our little Orc-Chop Express logo on the gate.
Oh, nice! Like on the shield.
Yeah, on the shield.
Oh, that's gonna. Look
I won't dare take a picture to post now. It's it looks like a Fisher Price version right now, but
it's like I forget which castle it is, but it's the coolest one.
It's shockingly beige.
Well, after we get it done up more, I'll post some photos, and I think some people will really dig it.
Yeah.
We'll get the LED lights in there, getting the flame, little candle light in the windows and whatnot.
And for those of you who are thinking of using something like this, it actually worked great. It has a little platform on the top that I was putting I've made index cards with the monster stats. I was putting those up top. It has great little platforms to put all of your pencils and dice and all that stuff. And it keeps a lot of space open for you to put all of your books. And has this really neat little gate that you can just hit a button and it'll fly open and you can have a bunch of cool monsters on display to scare everybody with. Unless there's a giant microphone in the way.
Well, luckily there was a giant microphone in the way.
Yeah, otherwise we wouldn't have heard any of it.
So that's cool.
That's true.
James, anything exciting for you this week?
Yeah, I've got a couple exciting things. Well, the first one is castle related. The Dwarven Forge Kickstarter for their castle terrain.
Yeah, I saw some photos.
Looks-
Really awesome.
Yeah, it looks
Yeah.
super awesome. If I hadn't just started a new job and just gotten my first paycheck, I might be inclined to throw in some cash.
Their stuff's pretty sweet, but it's very pricey.
Yeah.
Yeah, the quality's definitely there. I remember
Oh,
I used
yeah.
to have a huge dungeon set when I was back in the height of the real estate days.
Yeah,
Eons
you have
ago.
like a whole thing.
I was a little. I don't know how. I was pretty free with my cash, especially when it came to Dungeons and Dragons toys, which was awesome because I dropped a lot of money on Dwarven Forge and we had more than we needed, so it was really cool to be able to do that. Unfortunately, I made the mistake of when we moved on and I didn't have storage space. I just was generous and gave it to my buddy, who then turned around and stopped gaming altogether and just, I think, sold it or gave it away.
Oh,
So
that's terrible.
yeah, now I'm like, I want it.
Yeah, I saw. I mean, I remember those, and they had some heft to it. They were well painted. I don't know. I really liked. I remember we did some cool photography with them. The new ones. Actually, I'm more interested in the Dwarven Forge dungeon set.
Yeah,
The
those are awesome.
castle set is cool, but it's a little limiting. I mean,
Well, it kind of
It's only
goes
when you're in
with
a castle.
they have a town set too, so
Yeah.
it's kind of like if you want to use that for your outdoor terrain, you've got that. But yeah, I really think that at least for a group like ours, the dungeon tiles have a lot more utility because you can, you just place them out and it builds out your room, and then you can customize from there. So if you have one adventure where you've got this new awesome fountain with blood or whatever, you can go and make that, and just you're doing one little terrain piece, which they can be big, but terrain's easier than it's not like you're painting 10 characters or something.
yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys know how much longer it has left?
I checked today. I think it's 17 days. Probably by the time this goes live, it'll be less than that. It's the 13th of March right now, so.
Yeah, I'm trying
Sounds like
to
it's
look it up on my phone. I don't know. People should check it out though. I'm gonna try and get this up fairly quick. So
Yeah.
check it out on Kickstarter. It's pretty cool.
I was looking at it, thinking of the DM screen, much like this castle here. I was like, ooh, to have a freaking
Yeah.
Dwarven Forge DM screen, and then, but I really wanted the two towers, right?
The height
And
of opulence.
and it was, I forget how much it was. It was like, I could be wrong. Don't blow me up if I'm wrong, but I think it was like $700. Like the thing.
Well,
And then,
it is all.
or I looked at this Schleich thing for $50. I'm all, I think we're gonna go with the Schleich.
I'll throw a
At
little
least for now.
little paint on there. It'll be good as new.
Well, I'm pretty good with paint. So
One
think
thing I
it'll be fine.
did love the old ones that we had for was the fact that most of the time, when we made terrain in the past, especially Mordheim terrain where you've got a lot of figures
Yeah.
on it, it gets chipped to hell, and that stuff was pretty durable. I don't know what they used as far as a lacquer, but it was nice and matte. It was a matte finish, but I don't think we ever really had any issues with damaged pieces. So there's that.
Yeah.
You see the video? They're making out of this new stuff. They're calling it, I think, Dwarvenite or something. And it shows the guy's smashing it on the table and he can't break
It's like
it.
mithril.
Yeah.
That's what they're making out of?
They're calling it Dwarven. I'm sure it's just some compound of plastic
Like
that they
resin or
name.
Sure. It's
Dwarvenite.
just super strong. That's awesome though.
It's forged by dwarves,
Yeah.
It's fortunate. Well, if we should get one and review one. Well,
Yeah,
if we get
cool.
one, we'll see.
Yeah, well,
I actually had another thing that I was excited
Yeah.
about, which I found through the D&D subreddit, which I definitely recommend people check out, just if you're looking for answers to random questions, because people
Sure.
do ask a lot of stuff there. And it seems like there's a lot of knowledgeable people.
Yeah. You want to plug in really quick before you keep going? Yeah, definitely. We want to be looking over the D&D Reddit. We're gonna try and find questions that people
Yeah.
are asking and answer them. But yeah, people should go there. There's all sorts of stuff. I was looking through for yesterday, and there was hundreds of posts.
Oh yeah,
There's-
it's pretty.
Big community of players and DMs. It's cool. Anyway, sorry, to interrupt. Go ahead, keep going. How dare I?
So, but I found this video that someone posted of this guy. I believe his name is actually Guy, so he's not only
This
a
guy.
but this guy. But apparently he's won a bunch of awards in presumably New Zealand. I think he's a Kiwi, like nationals and stuff for best GM and whatnot. But I didn't realize that when I first started watching his video. The first one was how to be a great player. I think I actually shared it on our Facebook group, the secret one for Orc-Chop Express. But in watching that video, I also found he does like a DM series as well, and he's got a whole channel called Great DM.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And you can just search it under that. Yeah, this dude is seriously on point. If anyone's listening, if you don't take anything away from this, you should like go check that out, because everything that he says is just, you know, I couldn't have said it better. But one of the big things that he emphasized up front was that it's the DM's job to make sure people are having fun. And everything kind of stems from that. So honestly, a lot of my answers and philosophy on a lot of questions will stem from that. So, you know, even if that's all you took from his videos as well, I think you'd be better off than if you didn't. So
yes, please stop listening to us right now and go check out the Great DM.
I mean, yes, he's almost
that's what it's called, right? The Great DM, isn't it?
It's Great GM or Great DM. I have it on my phone actually.
We'll link it too.
Yeah, we'll put a post. And it's Great Game Master is his GM channel, and then I think they've got a campaign vacant something or other.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I haven't watched it myself either. But
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out.
Yeah.
And he's got a cool accent, so it makes it much easier to, you know, it's not like just some dude from like Texas or something.
Yeah.
He's like, all right, man.
Yeah, he seems like a really nice guy and very knowledgeable. And like, I've been DMing off and on. Oh Jesus, I don't want to think about how long.
Hey, let's not date ourselves.
Yeah, for a long time, over 20 years. And yeah, well, yeah. But I went back and I was listening to this guy's thing. I was just basically listening to tips for new DMs. Yeah, I've been doing this forever, but I've fallen into my own little routines, and I've forgotten about a lot of things, and so it's good to hear someone kind of reminding you of some of the good stuff to do. And I think one of the things I've always sucked at is giving out treasure.
Oh man,
yeah.
God, don't we know it?
Yeah,
right.
Well, hey, you just got something awesome.
We finally got some.
Because I got lead dice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So that's okay. So we're referencing the game we played last night actually, and we finally got some epic loot, but we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Which is
I have
super
a
cool.
feeling since it's a robe, it won't really be the perfect item for my fighter, but I guess we'll wait to find out.
It's got some like American stars on it. And
Yeah, all it does, it's got stars.
Forgotten Realms.
Faerun. A bit of Faerun.
So yeah, I think it's going to be more of a cape for Giles than an actual robe. You might have to have
Don't even give it to someone in the party who would actually like benefit from it.
I rolled the 99.
Yeah.
Moving on.
So, actually, I wanted to mention that. So I kind of custom made or chosen some items to give out at the beginning of the adventure. Some things that were pretty powerful, but not overly powerful. Because that's always the balance, right? I don't want people feeling like, oh, I have nothing and this totally sucks. But I also don't want people being like, oh, this is easy. I've got something that can destroy everything. So then at the end of the game, I let James just roll some dice on the treasure hoard table. You probably shouldn't let your players just roll the dice in the open for that, because you got something that's, I would say, one of the best.
I knew it was going to be good when I rolled a 99. I was like, ooh, this is sending me to a good subject.
I mean, it's difficult for the listeners to relate. What was it?
So it's a, okay, anyone with a DMG can open this up and try to find it.
I don't have a DMG.
I'm using this as evidence to look it up later.
Yeah.
Which is actually a topic we're going to talk about in a little bit.
It's a robe covered in stars, like a nightscape, and then has 6 red stars around its collar that shine brighter than the rest.
Ooh, red stars. I don't think that was told to us last time. We only rolled like 3 on our Arcana checks.
Yeah.
So.
I pictured something like the president from Idiocracy. Like Dean's Cape. Less American flag, I guess.
So I did want to touch on, it's interesting, so I ran into this thing, I've literally, all morning I've been thinking about this thing, because it could be a total game changer. Like, it's one of these things I'm afraid might make the game boring because it will just make.
That's all right. You'll just throw in scenarios to make us lose it.
It's also a pro tip, though. Our characters still don't know what it is, so it's still within the bounds of the DM's power to be like, cool, it's a cloak of protection, armor class +1, good job.
And bad spray painting.
Yeah, exactly. So,
yeah,
I wouldn't be too worried about it. It's not the end of the world.
Well, one thing that's really good is I thought about it, and within the context of the plot, I thought of a way that I could make it so it's not immensely powerful. It'll still be powerful, but it's not. It's gonna be a little
That's
bit.
probably good.
Yeah,
It'll make the
nerfed.
campaign easy.
Yeah, a little bit nerfed because there'll be a bit of a downside, and it works perfectly with the plot, which I think was kind of an important thing. So,
well, and also, I mean, with magic items in general, and just magic in general, and that's actually kind of one of the struggles I've had with DMing is. Since I don't traditionally play mages, I'm not really up on exactly what every spell does, so it's not super hard to ambush me with a weird spell that I'm like, oh shit, I hadn't taken that into account. So, and magic items are sort of the same thing, right? Like if it's like a cloak of teleporting or something, all of a sudden like Giles is teleporting everywhere, and it can really throw off your story. So it kind of just depends on your tastes of the DM and the group, because we've always kind of gone for low magic kind of settings, even in a high fantasy setting like Forgotten Realms. I mean, don't get me wrong, we love loot, but at the same time, it's never really been about like getting the sweet loot drops for our group, so it hasn't really been an issue in the past. And I think it really is just how the story goes. I mean, if you can make the magic items significant in the context of the story, where you give them a back history and it's got a cool name and that character loves that sword, not because it's like +12 Holy Avenger, but
that sword is sharp as fuck.
Yeah, it really is. But
oh yeah.
but at the same time, like, if you have a cool adventure and you manage to, scramble tooth and nail to get your +1 longsword or whatever it is, you're going to remember that, and that's going to be one of your favorite weapons just because of how you got it, not necessarily just because it's a sweet item. So.
Yeah, I can actually relate to, I mean, our last campaign that you ran with the Nothic, like that whole battle was what was awesome about it, like, and then getting to find it. Anyways, they can listen to that campaign and find out about that, but that was awesome. Going back to the kind of how you were saying, don't look up the table. One of our main topics to talk about tonight was the monster manual causing player problems, and so let's change that from using manuals in general.
Yeah, I mean that's something I see pretty regularly on the D&D subreddit. I mean, it seems like every day or two there's patterns you start to pick up, and one of them is definitely like, I've got this player and I can't throw any monsters at the party because he always, spouts out the stats because he's either got the DM or the monster manual right there, or he's memorized it or whatever. So
we got Wikipedia users.
Yeah. I mean, that's something you dealt with. Yeah, so why don't you take that one, because I mean, we literally encountered this in our, I think, second
a couple campaigns ago, and we had one solution. I think there's what you used the last time you ran yours, but
if you're talking about when Nada she was at the table and in comes a hill giant, and
actually we're not picking on you, Cindy, this is
a
perfect example.
Sorry. No, we love you, Cindy, but and it was funny because as I was putting the hill giant out, and I was like, oh my god, and then I knocked a wine glass down on the floor. Broke glass everywhere. So I'm down there cleaning up the glass.
I mean, you mean ale glass.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, we're drinking ale.
Well, they have wine in their room. It's not like wine is not a thing. And I'm cleaning it up, and I see her on her cell phone, and she says, hey guys, hill giants have like 100 hit points. And I looked at her, and I said, by the way, I'm a father of 3, so I gave her the look, and I was like, hand me the phone, I'll give it back to you when you know how to use it.
No, it was even better than that, because you said, hey, can I see that? And she's like, oh yeah, here. And you're like, cool. And you can have it back when you learn how to use it. And I was just like, oh shit, that just happened.
Yeah.
And we're all adults, but it was so funny.
Well, I think you're gonna get to
Yeah.
the actual how you kind of combated that a little bit because that's actually really great.
So then I added 30 hit points to the hill giant.
Yeah,
I was just like, fine.
That's real.
All right.
There's a lot of ways you can deal with it if it's like a chronic problem too, because I was discussing this with Mike a little bit, and it really depends greatly on the motivation behind it, right? In this example, we had a player who just didn't know any better.
Yeah.
She's played some D&D, but she's not super seasoned, so she was just like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And when it's a situation like that where the player just doesn't understand why that's not a great thing, you can be a little bit more lenient. It's not like you have to be like, hey, what the hell?
Yeah.
But if it's a chronic problem where you've tried to bring it up and you're like, look, dude, this is really kind of ruining it, whatever, there's a lot of stuff you can do from just using the skins of monsters where you're saying, oh, this is an orc, but lo and behold, it's like a hobgoblin or a bugbear or whatever, just so it throws them off a little bit. I actually don't mind you have to be careful with just purely punitive responses, right? Because you don't want to be like the tyrant GM who's only just like wailing on your players. But, in a situation where they just refuse to stop, it's not outside the realm of possibility to just start nerfing the XP they get based on the logic of, okay, well, this is designed around a certain challenge rating, and you're making it easier by memorizing all these stats and making the combat encounter easier, so you get less XP because it's not a difficult thing. So I think that's, it's not probably not the best solution, but it's definitely something you can do if your players just outright refuse to stop.
Yeah, well, I think you could have some pretty basic house rules too going into your game where, even people, not just for looking up stats, just like kind of saying limit your phone usage, like keeps people in the game, and But then
you got it's that I think is that's going to be different from group to group. I think you have to have a little balance there because it is 2016. Like, people have phones, they use them.
Sure.
It is poor form to go looking up stats and stuff, but at the same time, it's perfectly acceptable. If my character is from some region of the world and I don't know that stuff, but my character would, I want to go look up stuff about the gods. So if I want to roleplay better, I can.
Oh yeah.
Be like Great Odin's beard or something like
that.
Sure.
But I think as the player, you need to know the difference between the two.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, and then so I really like how you dealt with it last time in the last campaign. Maybe you want to share that.
Yeah, I actually stole this from. I didn't steal it, but I guess I did.
Well, yeah, you read someone else was also doing this, and you put your own spin on it, right?
Yeah. So there was. Like I said, this comes up in the D&D Reddit quite a bit, and one of the responses I just really loved, and I told the poster, I was like, I'm stealing this, and he just basically suggested that, hey, there's an item in the I guess it's just the
DMG?
No, it's the player's handbook. It's
just the normal item table or whatever.
Yeah, it's just the item table, and it's called a book, and it costs 25 gold. And so if you want to buy like a grimoire of monstrous details or whatever, sure, you can do that in character. And then if you want to look it up, cool, you spend your turn looking at a book. And for the one that I offered the group for, they were actively seeking it out, so they went to the general store and asked about it, and I was like, yeah, okay, it's 50 gold, and it has a 20% chance of having any given monster in it. And I really liked that simply because it lets them indulge in the behavior that they wanted to, so you're kind of making a concession. And they have to, they're spending money for it in game, so they're, paying something for it. And it's also a disadvantage in combat. Like, you start flipping through your book in the middle of combat. That's a good way to get stabbed in the ass by a goblin or something. So, I really liked that. They ended up not getting it. I was kind of bummed.
Well, we were kind of tight on gold at the second, but after that game, I think we're doing.
Well, yeah, we could buy everyone a copy now.
The other things I would suggest is I try my best not to refer to the monster by its name. Like, at all.
Yeah, like troglodytes the other night. Yeah. I had no fucking idea what we were fighting. I'm like, God, these guys suck. They're like spewing gas everywhere. Yeah. And then, afterwards, I'm like, oh, right, troglodytes.
Yeah, and I'll mention the name, like, at the end of the combat. Pile of dead troglodytes. And I knew you'd be on.
Just like,
You start thinking about the D&D arcade game, welcome to the D&D world, and the
Their
troglodytes.
backflips.
Yeah, but remember, they'd go poof, and you would get poisoned.
Yeah, that's true.
That was...
Well, I mean, that's another thing, is I never really made a point of, memorizing all that stuff. That was always kind of a Kevin thing, but it definitely helps.
Not at Darth Kevin.
No, sorry, Darth Kevin. I didn't mean to implicate you in previous crimes, but yeah, it definitely helps if you're more descriptive rather than just being like, cool, you see a bunch of hobgoblins. It's, if you get into the nitty gritty of what they look like, what they're doing, it not only paints a better picture, but it also mitigates stuff like that. Also avoiding doing exactly what I did in my game, where I said, "Here's the picture. It looks like this."
No.
With weird
I
creatures
felt
like
bad
a
because I was
Nothic.
all, "Oh, I know what that is." I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I shouldn't have said that."
But at the same time, with a weird creature like a Nothic, you can describe it. It's got spines on its back. It's roughly humanoid, and it's got a big cycloptic eye. But once the combat's underway and everything, it's not the end of the world if you do that. If it is kind of an obscure monster like that, but. When you're talking about like bugbears and stuff, something that's super common that a lot of players will recognize, probably avoid it.
Sure.
Sorry, I know you want to move on to the next thing, but the
No, it's
last
okay.
thing I wanted to mention is don't be afraid to make up your own monsters.
Oh, yeah.
With this last podcast, you notice I was using a lot of slimes and oozes and such gooey type creatures.
Yeah.
And with the
By the time you hear this, by the way, it'll be like the next podcast.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So
Stop confusing listeners.
Yeah, that's coming up, guys. With the idea that there's a guy who's mixing these oozes together to make kind of his own thing, and so they've actually fought a creature. I'll keep this vague, but they fought a creature which was just destroying them all, but. It's because it was a totally different creature than what it looked like, or what you would think of. When you first look at it, it's a very common creature that everyone knows from D&D.
It was fucking ridiculous, by the way.
Yeah, I don't want to hurt your feelings here, but God, that sucked.
Yeah,
I was just like, oh,
But
God.
what level was it, Brett?
So it's
wait, yeah. Tell everyone what level was it?
it was
I'm such a seasoned D&D player. I didn't get my ass kicked along with my whole party by a level 1 challenge rating.
I'm almost certain it was a level 1.
He's looking it up.
Yeah, sorry.
Why he's looking it up is
class rating 1. And this was against a party of 6 level 3s.
Yeah.
6.
To be fair, alright, the dice were not with us.
No, and that's what I was gonna say. Actually, what's funny is I don't think the monster itself was hard. It was the luck in our scenario. Like everything we were trying to do was a fail.
It also kind of brings up books like the one you're looking at. What's that one called?
It's called Fifth. I was actually going to mention it too. It's called 5th Edition Foes by Necromancer Games. So this is an unofficial compendium of monsters that. Okay, so real quick, if I can plug this book, it's got some really good things I want to mention.
Yeah, plug it before I shit all over it.
That just sounds like the game with the hill giant. So what's interesting is they basically went through a lot of the old D&D Fiend Folio and monster manuals and pulled the monsters that aren't in the new monster manual and added them in here with 5th edition stats. One thing to keep in mind is old school D&D was fucking brutal.
It's gnarly, dude.
And
Brilliant.
So I kind of want to look through some of these things. Like that one was a challenge rating 1. I'm tempted to just blanket say maybe just double the challenge rating of all these things. In the current stats and whatnot. These are looking.
Well, maybe give it one or two more as a filler to see.
When you're looking at stuff that's non-official and even sometimes official, I mean, we look at these books as, oh my God, this is the official WotC book. The guys writing it are only human, so you kind of have to remember that. But it's doubly so for third-party books, because one of the without giving away too many specifics, it's like that one effect is like 4 hours.
Yeah.
And it's a combat effect where, you're pretty foobar if it happens to you, which seems pretty out of line with like a challenge rating 1. Yeah. So you kind of have to look at those and, again, if you're just putting together an adventure, you're like, sweet, this looks good, throw it in. It's easy to overlook that stuff. But,
well, thankfully, with Health Potion administration techniques advancing,
Yeah.
we found ways to absorb the health and eliminate those effects faster.
Yeah.
That's
also-
all homebrew.
That's a glaring example of the difference in tone between Brett's campaign and mine.
Yeah.
You'll just have to listen to episode. What is it?
That's going to be Campaign Eye of the Fallen, The Dark Sepulchre Part 2.
Yeah.
So that'll be out after your campaign, so probably a couple weeks. I wanna show you guys this. My wife just texted me a D&D shirt that I might have to get. It says, for listeners, because they can't see it, it says, she wants the D&D.
Oh god, that's getting ordered.
So that's excellent. All right, well, I'm totally going to change topic. And my question for you guys, what's the deal with dice towers?
Honestly, I have no fucking idea. The first time I ever saw a dice tower was I might have seen them at cons and not known what the hell they were and not cared, because I can be a bit of an elitist like that, like,
Sure.
oh, what are those nerds doing, whatever. But at the same time, like, I saw it on the D&D subreddit, and that was the first time I seen it, or I had seen it rather, and I'm still kind of fuzzy on the concept. I mean, you put your dice in the top and it rolls it for you. Maybe it's because I know we have had some people in the past, especially in wargaming, where it's kind of this half-assed flip roll where you can almost tell they've like got it on the opposite side of the 6, and they flip it down and it just kind of happens to land on a 6 every time or whatever.
Now, does the dice tower still stay behind the DM screen?
I think players can use them though. I thought. I mean, it's like just a game aid, right?
Well, yeah. A lot of DMs put him out front. We have a buddy, Will, that rolls as a DM, rolls his dice in the open, which is brutal. It's gonna be very brutal. And so I think it's for I've seen DMs do that where they put it out front, and they say, okay, we're just gonna roll this, and they put it in there, and it's proving to them that it's a truly random thing, that the DM's not trying to flub it or trying to hack it against the side and do this and that.
Even though that's.
I'm giving weird looks.
Yeah.
I'm skeptical.
Yeah. So you have this contraption that rolls it, and then it comes out on the other side of the screen, so then the DM has to lean over and look and try to figure out.
Well, okay, so my perception of it is that it's supposed to make the roll completely random.
Yeah.
But I would argue that because it's always the same, if you were to put it like in a specific number facing up and drop it the same way every time, you'd probably get almost the same exact result every time.
I was about to say.
Well, I don't know. Okay. Well, anyways, I'm just saying. Like, I think the randomness.
Roll a dice down your hand, like kind of caressing it
Very
gently.
seductive.
Well,
And then
well, that's only by
very slight imperfections in your skin will adjust the dice roll.
Okay, well, that's because I just designed a dice tower for sale for DMs that give you the natural 20 every roll. It'll be for sale soon.
It's got like dice at the bottom that spits out.
Yeah, it's actually
All sides have 20s on them.
yeah, it's a 20-sided 20 number die.
But I did ask that. I think I forget what the actual post was, but I basically posted on the D&D subreddit what the fuck is with the dice towers, everyone? And I got some responses, and then mostly it's just a cool game aid, and I was challenged.
I can take that visually. It is a cool aid. That's cool.
So I was challenged to make one or to use one, and I said, all right, I think I have the perfect implement for this, and I googled. If you remember the old He-Man. The He-Man tower where you put the slime in at the top.
Oh yeah.
And the skull barfs slime down on He-Man because he's trapped by a claw that's grabbing his balls.
yeah. Well,
so I found one
the
of those
ball
on
claw
eBay.
will make slime come out.
Well, no, I mean I'm removing the ball claw because it's probably just by now. I mean it's an old toy. So anyways, I found one on eBay, so I'm gonna make a dice tower out of that. So hopefully you guys will get to see some pictures.
Competing dice towers. Should I modify this thing?
But that thing's already bigger. It's not really fit. I mean, we can.
Awesome.
Yeah. All right.
It's kind of the perfect size for a dice. Oh, it even has a little ramp.
Do you want it here? Okay. This is as good as any
we
dice
should
tower.
describe what we're looking at, just so everyone's not what's
So.
happening?
Well, people check out the Twitter. I'm gonna post it right now at Orc-Chop Express. I just took a photo, so you guys can go take a look. but go ahead and you guys can describe it and talk about it.
So this Schleich castle came with this extra tower that I'm not using, but it's a tower, and we all thought, hey, that would be a good dice tower. So, and it has some openings, and I have it right next to the mic. So let's roll some dice. Let's see what happens. Tell you what, I'm gonna roll a d20.
This isn't made for it though, so you might.
Well, it'll randomize it. I'm gonna hit the floor. I'm gonna shake it until it gets to the bottom.
It's the best dice tower.
So
Everyone, listen closely. Alright, and I got a 16. A respectable
That's
16.
respectable.
I was
Yeah.
going for 20 though. So
Alright, well,
that
when
was-
I get the He-Man slime barfing one up and ready, we'll have a roll off. How about that?
here's roll number 2.
Yeah.
I'm gonna roll it the exact same way.
well, what number was facing up last time?
So it was 16.
Oh,
No, when you-
Okay, test number 2. I'm gonna
Well,
put 20.
you've already botched the test.
Alright.
Like,
You need to,
Alright,
you gotta
here,
control
new
this,
test.
this environment.
Alright, I'm resting it between these two pieces, and I have the 20
okay,
on the top.
all right,
Got it?
yeah.
Well, it actually
Oh.
worked.
It's going underneath the washing machine.
Holy crap, that went like across the entire room.
Alright, got an 11.
If it fucking comes up as an 11, I fucking win at life.
What?
If it comes up
Yeah,
as an
this one-
11, I
okay.
win.
So I have it the exact same way. It has the same edges. See, now you guys pulled your elbows off the table, shifting the weight slightly.
Whatever, just roll it. If it randomly hits 11 again, that's awesome.
That's one big pile of shit. Alright, and... Oh, no, see?
No, it's already.
That's because you dropped it differently.
Stop dropping it differently.
Oh, see, now I'm nervous, so it's stuck to my thumb. That's a 2.
Yeah,
So,
so,
so this is random. So this is a perfectly functional,
yeah.
proven dice tower.
Jeff Goldblum was right.
Okay, now I want you to do the same test, not with the tower, with your hand. I want you to roll the die once. Okay, go ahead and roll it. Tell me what number you get. Oh, face it up with the same number.
Alright, 20 on the top.
Okay, roll it.
I got a 9.
Okay, okay.
Nice
Do it
count.
one more time.
In the exact same way.
Yes.
I got a 17.
Okay, fuck dice towers. Okay, like
But they look cool.
Myth.
they do look cool. Like
I'm gonna
so
have a
this
skull at the top, alright?
yeah, and then even so this one too, like this extra piece that came with the castle, like very cool. You could turn into a dice tower.
it
Works.
looks cool.
Cool game aid, like yeah, I would get that if that's the point. If someone
Yeah.
says that's the point, but don't try and tell me it's the randomness or
Yeah,
all
I'm
that
not
shit.
quite sure.
Like
I think it's kind of like driving a muscle car. It's like the D&D nerd equivalent, where you just like, check out my sweet dice tower, babe. But maybe not. I don't know.
Well, that's what I showed Tiffany in our first date, was my dice tower. And,
I
man,
probably shouldn't be
the
here.
rest is history. I won't tell you where it was. Oh, yeah.
oh man, sorry, I'm tweeting this. If I'm sorry if I'm supposed to be steering the conversation.
I could see
I think you're
with
a
the
podmaster.
dice with fewer sides, maybe. Like the D4 and the D6.
Well, hopefully we'll
D20
get
is
some.
so random. Like it's really it's
Yeah,
difficult
that's
to
true.
flub a D20 and make the D20 land on the side that you want because there's just so many sides.
Sure. Well, then there's also like we talk about or we've talked about before the like balanced dice and like the way that they're cut. Like
Oh, that whole thing.
so depending on what side it lands on, it changes its randomness. Like it's
Yeah, like
I don't know.
someone that we played with just happens to always roll amazingly, and I don't doubt the character of, but I doubt the dice of.
Oh, we were playing a war game, and I had a die in there that one of our friends was using, and he's rolling it. It's based on Savage Worlds, so the dice explode. He kept getting a 4, a 4, a 4, a 4, and it kept exploding. And then I saw him roll, he got a 3, and he says, I got a 4, and rolls it again. I was like, no, you didn't, you got a 3. He's like, no, I got a 4. It's like, you're cheating. What? Really? Why are you cheating?
Who
And
cheats at miniature war games?
I'm not, I grabbed the dice. The die had been misprinted.
Yeah, I
One
remember that.
side was turned. So if all of you...
Oh wow, that's ridiculous.
Two sides, 2 of the top points on it had 4s and one had a 3. So one of the sides had been like
Yeah,
rotated.
it was really weird. So like almost every side had like 1 4 or something.
Yeah.
It was pretty strange. So yeah, don't buy knockoff, off-brand dice.
Knockoff.
You get the Chess X shit.
I kept the die for when I'm playing.
I have to keep my eyes on you then.
Running a game. I'm all die
Crap.
for damage.
I better not buy any more of those dice. Since we're kind of in a silly spot, D&D 101 I'm going to call the kind of segment where I'm going to ask you guys some questions and whatnot. But I also want to tell you guys some of the really dumb shit that I realized that I was doing. I'm going to start with the dumb.
Beans.
like eating the glowing beans to find out what they are.
I would have been all for that as long as
I was going to if Lyra had not been smart enough to take them away, and she, so I was like, no, I'm so sorry,
Yeah,
Tiff,
geez,
so
right.
sorry. Yeah, so Zakaria, if she had not taken those away, like, actually good role playing from her on that part, because, like, I did take the beans, these magic glowing beans, and I tried to roll Arcana, and I didn't figure it out. I rolled, like, a 4, like every other roll that game from all of us. And I was about to be like, I'm gonna eat them.
To be fair, like, Jones has a
wisdom of 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's perfectly in keeping with his character.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, for those of you who know, so these two guys who have been DMing forever have never seen anyone build a character who's rolled all ones on their stats. And on my first D&D character that I ever made, I'll have to post a picture on Twitter. I took a picture of the dice. I rolled all ones. So I put it in wisdom. So I have a wisdom of 3.
Yeah, but you're
It's
already
pretty bad.
following Chris Perkins' advice, so I mean you're
Oh yeah. I mean, why not?
right out of the gate.
So newbiest thing that I did, not this last game, but the game before, is I realized at the end of the game that I was supposed to add my initiative to my initiative rolls.
No way.
Yeah.
Slowest archer ever.
And yeah, and then actually, and I'll combine that with, I also when I was rolling to hit, like, I wasn't adding like the bonus for the weapons, like the short bow was +4. So when I was rolling to hit, I was just like, oh, 9. Like, no, I didn't actually roll a 5 and add 4. I just rolled a 9 and didn't add 4 to it.
There was some way that you could represent the skill of my character with this particular weapon.
This is so odd.
I knew that would give you guys a good laugh. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm not quite a master of 5th edition yet myself, but stuff like that's somewhat self-explanatory.
well, what's funny is, like, you know, like I said, this is my first time in D&D. I've been playing Savage Worlds with you guys forever, and I think I might have played one other system with you guys once, but I mean, that's all I've ever played. I've never played D&D. So, like, all these stats that I look at, like, I'm flipping through a lot of shit, and I'm like trying to look through the, like, rules and stuff on fighters, stuff on gnomes, and, like, when I level, what the hell does that mean for me? And, like, I haven't even had time to read everything, so it's pretty crazy. There's a lot of info in there.
It is kind of more codified, you know, especially because, I mean, we're looking at 5th edition.
Sure.
And the numbers, I don't even think they started counting until 2nd edition, right? So,
What numbers?
like 5th edition, 4th edition.
Oh.
Because before there was like, and there's also
was-
a few sneaky ones in there, like basic D&D.
Yeah.
You know, they tried to rebrand a few
And then
times.
there's AD&D.
Yeah.
Advanced and Advanced.
So, yeah,
Which
it's
I think
been
they
through a
consider
lot of.
edition, right?
Yeah, 2nd
Yeah.
edition is AD&D, I
Yeah.
think.
Sure.
I'm probably gonna
Yeah.
get yelled at by some people with higher nerd lore skill than I do. But,
Well, this is
which is fine,
Nerd-
actually. If we're
fine.
if we're getting things wrong, please yell at us. I mean, that's how you get better. So
Sure. Well, this is a good time to actually ask. I had a general topic or question to ask you guys, and it was for DMs coming back to the D&D system. What has been your overall thoughts, and how does it compare to other systems you've run over the years?
5th edition.
Yeah. Well, coming back to D&D in general. I mean, because you guys pretty much, I don't want to say dropped it, but you guys have not been running D&D for quite a while, right?
Well, I mean, we kind of moved away from it as soon as we found Savage Worlds, simply because 3.5 specifically was getting so crunchy, and there was so much extra stuff you could add because of, you know, you had all these different source books and everything. And it's kind of true of most D&D systems that once you hit like 20th-ish level, things start really bogging down with modifiers. I mean, I remember my paladin. Remember that? I had like the back of my character sheet. I literally had like all the different permutations of what could happen with his different abilities and combinations. I'm like, okay, so if I use my Divine Strike plus this, here's my modifier to be this, plus this, plus this, plus this, and it's literally like across the entire page. So this is what I roll. And then if I have this but not this, it's this one. Boom, 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 and like it just got ridiculous to the point where we wanted to have these cool epic battles where it's like our party versus like 30 or 40 skeletons, which should be pretty easy, but just because of the kind of the nature of the system, it really bogged things down, and that's kind of why we switched over to Savage Worlds. That said, I do feel like 5th edition, I mean, Brett, you probably, I'm not going to speak for you, but I think we kind of feel similarly on this, where it definitely feels like a step in the right direction. Things have been streamlined a lot from what I remember, and we kind of lucked out, I think, in that we skipped 4th edition entirely, so a lot of people seem like they've got, like, you know, total shell shock from that, like, they just hate that thing, so we lucked out and skipped that, and coming back for 5th edition, I'm actually really pleasantly surprised. I mean, it's kind of one of the reasons we're doing the podcast and everything is we had so much fun coming back to it.
Yeah.
Because we initially were just like, oh, let's, you know, we just wanted something lightweight. Let's buy the boxed starter set and say, fuck it, let's roll some dice and play some D&D like the, you know, the good old days. And I'm pretty happy to report it's basically been just like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's similar enough to what we used to play that we remember it. You know, we played some 3.5, but the bulk of our kind of D&D heyday, I want to say, was in 2nd edition. So,
Absolutely.
Coming back to this, it's a lot more streamlined. Some stuff's different. I don't know where the hell Dragonborn... Well, I do now, actually. I looked it up.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's like, where the fuck did Tieflings and Dragonborn come from? What's going on? But, so the settings have changed, but the rules themselves have either been simplified or just kind of generally streamlined. To the point where it still feels like D&D. It feels kind of like it's got that kind of coming home, cozy vibe to the game.
Yeah.
But it's also, you know, a little different, quicker. At least at the level we're at. We're still, you know, both of our campaigns are around level 3, but I don't see that kind of crunch on the horizon. So.
Yeah. I've witnessed a little bit of crunch. I was helping Tiff with her rogue assassin. So, yeah.
Fucking sneak attacks.
Yeah, and so on her character sheet, I literally just wrote out exactly what would happen if she got a sneak attack. Because all these different modifiers pop on top of each other. And then I just wrote out the damage for each one of her 3 weapons so that she wouldn't have to look it up and crunch all the stuff. It's short bow, 6d6 plus 5 damage. Done. Move on. You know, and that's why what was great is when we were playing the other night, one of the players had a 3rd level high elf rogue assassin, just like Tiffany's character, doing the same exact attack. So I knew exactly what the stats were. So I just said, "Hey, just roll 6d6 plus your modifier, and you got it." Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we played a lot of 2nd edition, a lot of AD&D, and then that 3.5, and specifically that one campaign that we know really well. But then, yeah, we got into that Savage Worlds, and Savage Worlds was exactly what we needed at the time, because
very different.
Yeah, our biggest complaint was how slow the combat stuff. They took so long, and we were getting really frustrated. And Savage Worlds came in, and you know, they're fast, furious fun. Just, you know, get it done and move on with your day, and it was great. And I mean, I basically only played Savage Worlds for, God, I don't even know how many years.
Yeah, most of us. I mean, we still had some group members that played the indie campaigns on the side and everything, but yeah, that was our main system for quite a while.
And it was...
Oh no, I mean, it's still definitely got it's not like we've stopped playing Savage Worlds, but coming back to D&D, it's, like I said, it's got this kind of cozy vibe where I don't mind sliding back into that as our main campaign, or, you know, main game of choice by any means. Especially since it, you know, and having played both games, you know, it's pretty obvious, and, you know, hopefully the WotC folks don't mind us kind of outing them a little bit, but it looks like they've incorporated some things from Savage Worlds into 5th edition. And I'm not sure, I think some of them came in during 4th edition as well, but there are some mechanics that have been kind of lifted, and I think for the better. It makes D&D a better game. So things like Inspiration's a good example, where in Savage Worlds you've got bennies. Inspiration is kind of the same thing. So
Sure. It seems like Inspiration is given out much more sparingly. Not often as a Benny was, because each player had individual bennies. It's kind of like you give inspiration to one person when you decide, and that's it. That's inspiration's been given.
That said, I feel like the impact isn't quite as great in 5th edition. really all it does is give you advantage on a roll. So I think you could be more free than we have been with inspiration. And reading through the book on it, it seems pretty much like it's just it's a reward for good role play. Your character does something that your character would do, and it's a good example of, especially when it's something that's to their detriment, right? Like a good, like I bury this sword that we found, or magic sword we find on this bad guy because it's the honorable thing to do or whatever. You're sacrificing something for your game wise for your character's well being for the character itself. So that should be rewarded, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
And you can do that with XP and inspiration, but it's especially when you use something like a token, like we do with the coins that Brett supplied.
Well, I supply them rather than.
Yeah.
Where are those from, by the
Fucking
way? Because
please.
they're super awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, they're from a company called Great American Coin Company. They do a bunch of different replica coins, and the ones they're talking about they're pirate doubloon replicas, and they make them silver, gold, and copper. You can buy like mixed bags, but we have the gold ones laying around. So
yeah, we should link that in the podcast description because those are super cool. I think.
Yeah, they're really neat.
Ordering them. And they're pretty cheap, right?
I don't remember the price, but they're cheap. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and they're like metal, so they've got this kind of.
They're weighted. They feel good.
Weighty.
Yeah, it was actually sweet. We had in one of our games.
Yeah. So that's
they're sweet.
And they look really cool. They look like gold coins. So when you're talking about something like inspiration, where you can be like, here's your badass gold coin, there you go. Now there's this very tangible, sweet, I got a reward, and it's simple, but that kind of gets your the subconscious going, where you feel like, okay, cool, I should do more stuff like that. And it is nice to see D&D incorporating a lot more, and in background is another great example. They didn't lift this from Savage Worlds, but it's a good example of a mechanic that they're putting in to promote good story and good characters, as opposed to, you're a fighter, you have a sweet sword, go kill. So
yeah. Well,
it's
it
really
brings
nice
up
to come back and see stuff like that.
Brings up a good point to talk about, because I think we're finding the rhythm with inspiration versus like in Savage Worlds when we were using bennies, and bennies were given out much more often. Like I personally, like based off this conversation, I feel like we should be giving inspiration out more often.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, according to the letter of the law, it's supposed to be one inspiration is given out at a time.
Well, that's what I mean.
I guess I should read more thoroughly.
Yeah, so it's one.
But I don't know, but
and then once you use it, then it can be given out again.
Yeah.
But I think giving it out more often would promote people to use it more often too, because it's just on advantage, right? That's all that it does. But actually, so the question I just thought of based off of what we're talking about is like, if you're supposed to give it out for good role playing, like when do you make that judgment? Because not to sound like our group is the shit, I feel like there's a lot of good role playing though. So it's like, how often are you supposed to give it out? And
well, usually it's kind of, at least in my experience, if you're kind of looking at the baseline, right? So if your group has a high level of, high standard of role playing or whatever, you're kind of looking for those standout moments where everyone's clapping. Oh my god, that was so good.
Yeah.
Sweet, have some inspiration. And one thing, this actually ties back to sort of the Monster Manual referencing books thing, and just anything with poor roleplay, because we used to do this with bennies in Savage Worlds, which I think really should be something in 5th or 5th edition, which is using them kind of punitively. And again, you have to be careful with punitive behavior with the players and negative reinforcement in general. But if someone's being a shithead and either derailing the game or acting out of character or whatever, I wouldn't be afraid to be like, sweet, thanks for that inspiration back, assuming that they've had some. And if they didn't, be like, okay, everybody, here's my box of DM inspiration. Plop, and you put one in.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea.
Use that for any monster you've got that the players are fighting, and they might not think anything of it at the time, but having played Savage Worlds, our group's pretty conditioned to this. So the first time the players are about to get this awesome kill or someone's heroic moment, and you pull the rug out by being like, oh, actually they get advantage, and you just get jacked, they're going to get it pretty quick. Or okay, once you kind of start hovering your hand over the the communal coin bowl or whatever it is, the out of character conversations will quiet down, or whatever the behavior you're not a fan of will hopefully stop, and that's just kind of some conditioning, and it's a little evil, but at the same time,
Pavlov's players.
Well, I really like one of the things that Brett had done recently, which was giving someone disadvantage. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'd love to see that more often. Actually, I just think it's funny as fuck.
Yeah, we used to in our old games we had what was called the black die, and whenever someone was making a joke outside of character or outside of the game, just really disruptive, we would take a black die and set it down in front of the DM screen. You guys just got a black die, and then the DM at any time could make you re-roll something and take the worst of the two, which translates perfectly into disadvantage in this game. So that could be another extreme penalty for, rather than giving, there's two ways to do it. Either give the DM advantage, when the players do something disruptive, or give the players disadvantage when they do something disruptive.
Sure.
Yeah, this is kind of, it ties into a bigger thread, which I think a lot of new DMs are a little afraid to do things like this, but the rules are totally mutable. They're not, they're in a big, scary, hardbound tome that costs you a lot of money, but it's not like you can't change it whenever you want. If you don't like how something works, for example, like I want inspiration to, that's silly. I don't think you should be limited to one at a time. Give out, one to each player when the game starts, just so that, if you're in some super cinematic campaign where it's supposed to be like an action movie and everyone's flipping, from ship to ship or whatever it is. Yeah, start them off with advantage if you want, or inspiration.
I'd personally love to see that. I'd love to see the rule be more like each player can get inspiration. And because the fact that like when you get inspiration, I'll use my my experience as an example here. When I have inspiration, I'm waiting for the time I really need it.
Yeah.
Like, and then that means everyone else has to wait, even though they had that role play moment where they deserved it. Because I have the inspiration, right? And then
and if you just hold on to it,
they don't get it. So I'd almost like to see a homebrew rule, which is each player can get inspiration, not more than one, but just each player can get one.
Yeah, I'm just gonna double check on inspiration. I would hate if we did this whole conversation.
Yeah, well, that's okay. Yeah, someone's listening right now and be like, these fucking noobs.
That's totally possible. I mean. We're not going.
I'm pretty sure that's the way it works, though. I'm pretty sure there's one. So I mean, it looks like Brett is in the book here.
He's looking it up, but at the same.
It's cool. We're seasoned DMs, and we're looking in the player's handbook about inspiration. That's great.
Well, that's what you do when you don't know shit. But, I mean, it's a good time to point out, like, we're coming back to 5th edition, so we're still kind of learning the rules and how things work. But I feel like hopefully the listeners can get the impression we do have pretty solid fundamentals and we know what we're doing from a just basic gaming perspective. So, and I feel like that's not a super uncommon situation, especially with 5th edition getting as much positive buzz as it is. I mean, that's one of the reasons we came back is that we heard good things about it, so we wanted to check it out. Mm-hmm. So it's having gone through 4th edition and 3.5, I imagine some people love the shit out of 3.5 and bless your heart, but a lot of people were kind of scarred by it. I feel. Well,
you're probably catering to different types of gamers, or trying to bring in elements for a different crowd, because some people say they want this, others want that, and
Yeah, I mean, as it pertains to us specifically, feel free to tweet us or go on our Facebook and yell at us. And just,
at Orc-Chop Express.
Exactly. And, or just talk shit or whatever you want to do as far as, because we're still learning the rules. If you want to point out mistakes we're making.
Yeah, please do. I won't care.
Yeah, because Mike's
we'll still do
the person that's on the receiving end of that. So if you're damaging anyone's mental stability, it'll be his, not
And another thing, talking about how we're coming back to these rules, keep in mind, our biggest interest is providing and having a good time. So oftentimes you'll hear someone say, well, how does this thing work? And you'll hear me say, I don't know, but tell you what, roll this and we'll look it up later.
Yeah.
And so I don't know all the rules, but does that matter? Not really, because again, are we having a good time? Is it more fun to watch someone thumbing through a book for 20 minutes trying to find a rule? No, not really.
And that actually kind of goes back to what Guy, the Kiwi DM master guy, said, which is pretty much just as long as people are having fun and you're keeping the pace moving and everything's working out, the rules are pretty secondary. Your main job as a DM is make sure the players are having fun. And if everyone's upset and not having fun, unfortunately, it kind of falls on you, and you fucked up somewhere, and then you can kind of go and figure out what went wrong and tweak from there. But I think
having fun is the point.
Yeah. So and I think Brett's advice is perfect in that regard. You have to decide at that moment, okay, I don't understand how boats work or whatever the rule that you're looking up is. Is it worth it to pause the game and interrupt whatever momentum you've got to find that rule out? Or is it better to just roll the die, make a judgment call, which is your prerogative as DM, and keep the game flowing and making sure everyone's having fun?
So, real quick, looking this up, you know what? I think we were so, see? Learning curve on it.
Oh, God.
Well, because it looks like any player can only have one of these at a time.
Okay, so it's what Mike wanted.
Yeah, so I'm thinking...
God forbid I came up with a perfect system.
Good job.
So, hey.
Yeah.
You know what?
Work at WotC.
Us, hey, yeah, we made a mistake or whatever, but...
Well, I didn't. Technically, they did my idea.
Yeah.
They actually stole Mike's plan.
So when are you going to start the lawsuit on that? Is that like right away or?
Maybe tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
I'm too tired
get some
tonight.
sleep.
Yeah. Fresh mind.
Well, this is great because
I'll cut all this out.
Right out of the gates, everyone's established these guys are fucking noobs.
Let's stop talking about inspiration so I have less to cut.
Fair enough.
But yeah, it should just remind everybody that even if you don't know every single rule down to the letter, it's about having fun.
Yeah, you don't need to.
Yeah, and don't feel bad as a DM if you don't know every rule. Just make the letter of the law what you say goes during that game, but that you'll come back and review it and be okay with making mistakes.
And that said, I do want to caution, there is a type of DM which just doesn't give a shit about the rules and does whatever.
Yeah.
That's obviously you want to temper your judgment calls. I mean, every single recommendation we've made as far as throw this rule out if it sucks or whatever it is. Realize that your players have shown up with a certain amount of expectation. This kind of comes back to just knowing your players, but they've read the books, presumably, and hopefully you have too, but I can't really profess to have thoroughly done so as of yet, but you want to make sure that you're not upsetting players, because it's one thing to speed things along by saying, okay, we'll look it up later, or I don't like this, we're going to do X, but if the players are showing up and they're like, man, this DM is changing everything and ignoring all the rules, like, why did I even roll up this character if my longbow bonus doesn't even apply? Because so be sparing, and again, it's all judgment calls. So.
Yeah, and I think there's moments where the DM or players can look something up. It's quick. There's something that it's a little bit too in depth, and let's not take the time right now to figure it out.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you guys personally do well as DMs, is you guys know when to look it up and when to make the judgment call, and the judgment is good. But hopefully that's... Hopefully.
It's funny because looking at the D&D subreddit, I feel so bad for so many players and so many DMs because there's so many horror stories. And again, I don't want to be like tooting our own horn, but I just feel so lucky that I feel like we have a pretty standard group that doesn't just fuck everyone over, and isn't, the players aren't always trying to actively piss off the GM, and because I just, you see some, but I mean, and Mike and I were discussing this the other day, especially with new players, it's important to have, I feel like, podcasts like Acquisitions Incorporated and all these other ones where you can kind of remotely have that new player watching experienced players do it right.
Sure.
Because if you are just thrust into, oh yeah, we're playing D&D, this is how it's done, like it's the 80s, and you can't just go on the internet and look things up, it's really easy to just think that the norm is really just not a jacked up way to play, and all these super unhealthy and damaging behaviors, are just a standard thing, and that's how it's done. So, because, just reading some of these horror stories where I'm left wondering, like, at the end of this poor person's post, they're like, and it's been going on for 2 campaigns, and we're starting our 3rd, and I know
which one you're talking about, yeah.
And I'm just like, my God, how did you survive? I would have walked out like after the first one or whatever.
Well, actually, this is a good transition point, because we have our D&D Reddit topic that we found to talk about this week. And one of the main topics that we didn't get to because of time was pacing in your campaign. So we'll talk about that on the next one. And so let's go ahead and look at the D&D Reddit question that we thought was good to talk about. And this one was posted by, hopefully I say this right, Elviox DM. He said, advice on handling personal quests. He writes, so I'm a pretty new DM, and recently my players have suggested that it would be cool if their personal stories / backgrounds affected the overall story arc of the campaign. The problem is I don't really know how to do that effectively. I want to avoid any players feeling like their character is somehow less important than others, and I'm struggling to think of ways to incorporate the more mundane origin stories. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. Also, the commenters on here, there's a lot of good comments. Obviously, we can't sit here and read through them all, but like James was mentioning earlier about making sure to kind of go through the Reddit, the D&D subreddit. There's a lot of good stuff on there, and definitely good advice in this topic. But we're going to go ahead and put our thoughts on it.
I hope you don't mind. I'm going to jump in here, just because it's something I have a decent amount of, not the character backstories so much, but because Brett is much more freeform. You make almost all of your own. I don't think I've ever actually run a module that you've run. Everything's original.
Yeah.
Whereas I actually kind of prefer to take a module and use it, especially when, like coming back to 5th edition is a perfect example. I don't know the system that well. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure how things are supposed to be done, especially because we haven't played D&D in a few years. So we just started with Lost Mines of Phandelver and jumped straight in. And now that we're a few sessions in, I'm a little bit more comfortable with it, and I can start going back and being like, okay, let's start working in everyone's backstories. And one thing I think it's important to do, and Brett's always been really good about this, is working with your players on their backgrounds when they're making them. Mm-hmm. Because if you just say, okay, everybody show up on Friday with a character, you're probably going to get a lot of those. My dude's a soldier, and he's pretty cool. He went to soldier school. The end. Yeah. And while that's pretty cool, you can and also the background system kind of ties into this, and it really helps out with this sort of thing where even if they do just do that, they're going to come in with some pretty cool plot points for their character. But at least when you work with them, you can say, okay, like Rin and Mike's character for my campaign was a pretty good example of this, where he wrote his background, the base background on his own, where it was he's this dwarf who used to be a miner, but or used to be associated with a mining camp, and then orcs.
Yeah, some shit I forgot. I don't know.
Yeah, just some stuff. But orcs come in and they drive him off, and he's gone off into the woods and gone feral, and that's why he's a barbarian. And because he consulted me on that, and I worked with him, we were all able to say, okay, well, you're coming into the second adventure in Lost Mines of Phandelver, and in the campaign background for that, there's an ancient dwarven mine, and it got sacked by orcs, and they got driven off, and it works perfectly. So now I can say, okay, well, let's tweak this a little bit. You actually were one of the original dwarves that mined that, mine. and so now it's much cooler because I can weave those things back in where it's, okay, now when we go back, your character might start noticing things, or we might encounter people that he's known, or, the tomb of somebody who you used to know, or whatever it is. But I think
related to their question specifically too, to kind of comment on that, is then you got to be careful that you're not tying too much in specifically to my character in your campaign, right? Because it seems like what they're kind of saying is, how do I make them less important than others?
Well, that's kind of one of those things where...
Which I didn't get from you guys, by the way, because it doesn't really... I got to do a stone history check. Awesome. Yeah, tied in a little... Yeah, it's really good.
You'll start seeing more of this with my campaign, just because, like I said, I've been sort of kind of getting my bearings with the last couple games, and now I'm like, okay, I've been brainstorming a bit and thinking, okay, this would fit good here.
Sure.
And that's really a lot of what it is. Just go through your camp, especially if you're running a module or your existing campaign, and look for ways where your character's backgrounds can kind of link into it, and also how they might affect things. And it's frustrating because I've got a lot of cool ideas that are perfect for this response, but I can't really tell you guys because it'll tip off things that are coming up. But
I want to know.
you know, just thinking about how your character's backgrounds might tweak things. You know, if certain people do certain things,
Sure.
how it might lead things to go differently, and then you can plug in new NPCs and new story hooks and whatever. But as it pertains to not shining the spotlight too much on one person, that's kind of a tricky one simply because if only 2 of your 4 players have really worked hard on their background and they've basically given you that material, right? Because at the end of the day, the way I'm looking at it is, okay, I've got this module, it's going to give me X number of adventures, but I've got these other plot hooks provided by, Brett's character background, so now I can introduce this NPC who's his, evil nemesis from his background story, and he's going to do X, Y, and Z, so that gives us that much more content, so that fills out maybe another month, interspersed throughout. So that's kind of how I look at it, is you're just providing more content for your players, it just relates to that character. So it is a little difficult if only 1 or 2 of your characters or your players are providing that for you, so you kind of might have to wring it out of them a little bit more, just because, and if they really don't want to, you can just make stuff up, like, hey, your sister's in town.
Well, so I mean, maybe for him, maybe some good advice is if other players are providing details and he's putting focus on them and others aren't, maybe he should be taking a little extra time with them to sit down with them and kind of work on their backstory and what they want and kind of find out how they can incorporate them at that same level.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what I take. I mean, what do you have any comments on that, Brett?
Well, yeah, a couple things. I don't know who was saying it. It was either Chris Perkins or I think his name is Guy, the
great GM guy.
The great GM guy.
Pretty good company either way.
Yeah. One of them was mentioning how you want to shift the spotlight. They have a spotlight and you want to shine it on certain players at certain times. And I've noticed this specifically in Acquisitions Incorporated. Mr. Perkins will have an entire adventure based around
At Chris Perkins D&D.
We'll have it focused completely on one of the players.
Jim Dark.
Yeah, his whole family and that, and then
which was hilarious.
Yeah, that was awesome. But that reminded me a lot, and I want to do this or something similar at least in a campaign I'm doing. We had a friend that ran us on a Star Wars game eons ago. And we actually we each, as a player, had a game 0. So it was a game where our character was the focus of the game, and all the other players were there, but they were playing NPCs. They were playing not the normal characters.
Oh, that's a cool idea.
Yeah,
I like
they
that.
played NPCs, so they weren't afraid to do something that would get themselves killed, because they knew they weren't going to, the characters weren't going to move on from there. It was just for the plot of that one game, and it established your background, your backstory, and how you came to be in this one room at this one time when the campaign actually starts.
I love that.
It's a little hard to do that.
It's awesome.
As a prequel halfway through the campaign, because then you're like, how do you distribute XP and all that? But I thought that was a really neat idea, and if the players were up for it, I'd almost like to do some side quests with each of the players where they get whisked off to go do XYZ, but then all the other players there that night are playing NPCs, basically, and the whole thing is just focused on that one player. And then once you're done with that one adventure, they come back to the campaign with new knowledge on how to defeat XYZ guy or whatever.
It'd almost be really cool if somehow you fit into your whole campaign doing, maybe not back and forth every game, but somehow before the campaign ends, everyone gets that side quest. That'd be kind of cool.
Those are good to kind of use for evenings when maybe not everyone could show up.
Yeah.
Or what.
Oh yeah, that's great.
Cool.
We should do that every time the full party can't arrive. We should fit one of those in. That's an awesome idea.
Party. I mean, if one person's missing, it's like
Okay, I'll leave it to the professionals' discretion, but.
And then my only other real piece of advice would be, I'm very much an improv DM. I try to make up kind of as much as I can on the fly and just try to keep nimble. And so whenever a situation presents itself, like, oh, you're going to this grand ball in Marcember and, something's going on, you just keep all the characters' backgrounds in your head and you think, is there any way I could work someone's backstory into this? Is one of them a noble? Oh, that person's a noble. Okay, they might know someone here, or they might kind of know the etiquette, so you kind of put the chalice in front of them and say, all right, you're going to take lead on this part.
Yeah, that's actually really huge. I'm glad you brought that up because it is really important to make the players feel invested in the world, right? Because you don't want to feel like you're just this kind of alien thing cruising through this foreign land like a video game where you're just laying waste to everything and not really interacting. Having the players have like relationships with NPCs, having places that they've kind of become home or home base where they can say this is our shit rather than so now they've got a stake in this fantasy realm where otherwise they just whatever, I don't care about if the orcs invade, no skin off my back, I can just take a ship and go across the ocean or whatever. But if kind of like in the Lost Mines of Phandelver, like if the Red Brand's fort's cleared out, maybe you turn it into your adventurer's fort, or you move into that town and do something else, or whatever it is. Now if orcs invade, you're like, oh shit, well, I don't want them to wreck my house, so let's fuck up these orcs.
Sure. Well, hopefully they got some good advice from all that stuff. And I actually want to throw out, and I want to throw out actually. So you just mentioned the module you're running again. I actually reached out to one of the writers of that module, and he's agreed to get on our podcast. So
awesome.
That'll be awesome for in the future. We'll have him on. And I don't know when we'll do that. I told him I'd reach out to him again when we're ready.
Yeah,
so
I'm not.
I kind of want to wait till we're done, but I'm just super excited to talk about his wizard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel so
There's
bad.
something I want to say to him, but I'm going to wait for that podcast. But
Yeah.
It's so funny because it's just one of those situations where the author of the module just laid out like at least a page, maybe 2 pages of how to roleplay this one character, and then just the poor bastard got annihilated within the space of I don't even know if he made it out of the surprise
It
round.
was in the surprise round, so
No, yeah,
6 seconds.
he was dead.
I
He was
literally
gone.
doubled his hit points too. I was like, oh man, they're going through this guy pretty fast. I at least want him to like maybe get off a spell or like a Dr. Evil-esque speech where he explains some stuff and then all of a sudden it's just like a pincushion and stabbed and like I don't even remember.
Disarmed and just
so
well-oiled
it
machine.
was so funny too. I mean, without getting on too much of a tangent, but it was one of those games where if I didn't know that you guys were just stumbling through it as you normally do, I would feel like it was planned to just run through it the perfect way and just kill everything. And
It was
pretty
pretty ridiculous. Yeah, we found so many secret doors. It was
And
Yeah,
unlike our first game, where we did it the unperfect way, like we
Yeah.
went through the
That's
hardest way
true.
possible.
That is true.
Yeah, it
In
was-
Clark's cave, setting off every trap.
Me getting swept out of the cave, just
Pretty awesome.
constantly.
I was glad that happened though, just because it was so funny. But well, the secret doors in that were pretty interesting, just because technically they're secret doors, but the module said it was like a DC 10 to spot them. So anyone who really looks in the
Put
room,
a chair here.
yeah. So I mean, as far as the trapping of it, all,
well, they had the wood carver. They're making them chairs.
It's all painted a different color, it's like when you're trying to cover up graffiti and you just write the same word over it. It's like
it's like, oh wow,
see
this torch sconce has a hinge on it. But I mean, the trapping I used was just there's this one stone that's not dusty, so it's very obvious. And I think that's just a side effect of it being a low level adventure. You're supposed to be able to find that stuff, and it's conditioning players to oh shit, there's secret doors in these dungeons. We got to keep our eyes open. So yeah.
Well, that'll be exciting when we have. We're all kind of got these big smiles on our faces.
So what the fuck were you thinking with this one? No.
Yeah.
No, I'm excited because honestly, I've been really impressed with that module.
same here.
Yeah, it's been fun.
I really like how they laid it out. How, especially with Fandalin, and this actually relates to pacing too. Well, actually, I don't want to get too much into it. But
Yeah, we'll make that a main discussion point on the next one.
Yeah.
But I mean, just having the town of Fandalen, I mean, we spent literally an entire session just exploring the town,
Gathering intel.
meeting people, gathering intel. And unfortunately, that was before we started the podcast, so we don't have that one kind of on file for everyone to listen to. But it was a really cool example of, if people are having fun, just stick with it. You don't have to be like, oh god, here comes the dragon, cool combat.
Yeah.
I mean, the only combat in that was when you guys killed 4 red brands in the street when they, stepped to you. But other than that, it was just, let's go meet people.
It comes back to if you guys are having fun, right? I mean, if
Yeah.
everyone's having a good time role playing, searching the town, then I mean, that's a win. So
Well, yeah, and then also, again, it ties it back to that investment, right? Like, oh, we know all these people, we've made these contacts, we talked to this, Thalia Thornton over at the, at the
What's it called?
wherever. Actually, I think
We're so invested, clearly.
I know we know everyone in this town. It's like
That lady
it's like I
over
grew
the
up
place
there.
with the thing? Yeah.
I think Thalia Thornton or whatever. She was the one at the
She had the
Miners
secret
Exchange. The Lion Shield Coster is
Lion
the one
Shield
with the
Coster,
secret
that's right.
room. Yeah. I'm bad with names, especially.
By the way,
names of
anyone
people
who
that
hasn't played this module yet,
Oh
there's
right,
a secret room in Lion
spoilers.
Shield Coster.
Yeah, you should kick down the door. They have shields.
oh, do you give spoiler alerts for D&D modules?
Yeah, maybe
Yeah,
we
I feel
should.
like
Now we're gonna do our last thing before we wrap up, which is we're gonna check the mail. Plate mail, chain mail is what we don't have a fancy name for it, but maybe we'll change it every time. So we have one question in. We're just starting out, so the letters aren't flying in at us,
I'm
but
stoked that we have one question.
We
That's
have
Yeah.
a
we have a question. So this one was on Twitter. So if you guys want to send in questions, you can email us at the orcchopexpress@gmail.com, or you can tweet us at orcchopexpress.
Or you could just go to our website,
Yeah.
which is the orcchopexpress.com or orcchopexpress.com.
I don't-
or not hyphenated.
I don't know. Can they? I mean, have you plugged in the website yet?
Well, by the time this airs, hopefully.
Woo! So check out the orcchopexpress.com. Maybe it works. I don't
Hey, for the mail, depending on how many things of mail we get in, it should be chainmail +1. Right now, because it's only +1.
I like that.
So maybe
Yeah,
one day
that's
we'll have
cool.
chainmail
Plus
+10.
23.
+23 chainmail. Oh my god.
Okay, so at DMD Istra says, how do you make your PC a better role player? How do you make them more narrative and less mechanical?
In short, you can't make anybody do anything. I mean, that's just generally in life. You can help them. You can help give them ideas and help them come out of their shell. My wife has gotten into D&D, and it's awesome. And she's very excited about it. But she definitely is a shy person. She kind of stays in her shell. She's very quiet in general. But you'll hear her as she's playing these podcasts. She doesn't talk very often, and sometimes she's kind of quiet. And other times she just kind of gets really into it and comes out of it. And I think she's finding her own.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how can you make... actually, it was how can you make them a better role player?
How can you make your PC a better role player? How do you make them more narrative and less mechanical?
My best piece of advice would be just to be there for them, to help them anytime they have any kind of question, but then give them a lot of open-ended questions that can't be answered with yes or no. You know, like, if they're attacking with a sword, you can say, well, how do you attack with that sword? Or what part of their body do you attack? You know, give them a question where they have to answer with something descriptive. And then, you know, if they say, oh, well, I guess I swing my sword at their arm, then you can take that and you can say, oh, you take your sword and you hack viciously at its left arm and it gouges it out and the arm breaks and you can get really descriptive with it. And you can kind of show them, hey, you can get that descriptive with your descriptions. And hopefully, you know, kind of coach them to that. But you can't make them do that. All you can do is really encourage them to.
Sure.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Asking questions is probably one of the most important things you can do as a dungeon master because, you know, it's a collaboration or a collaborative storytelling process. It's not just the dungeon master saying, "Ah, check out this story." It's the players are there too, and they're telling the story as well. So their inputs is not only helpful, it's essential. So yeah, if you can say, hey, let's coax some information out of this person who might not otherwise do it, you're going to make your life easier and make them a better role player in the process. That, and also I think playing to different people's styles too, right? I mean, my style, I don't really honestly enjoy speaking in character that much. Sometimes I do, but for the most part, I'd much rather describe what my character's doing, and that's just something I've worked on. And so if that's what's, if somebody prefers to play a different way, I wouldn't try and force them to, in the context of making them a better role player. I would just kind of direct the way that they're role playing to their strengths. So if someone's a better writer maybe than they are a speaker, try and kind of use that and say, hey, maybe think about it as if you were writing a novel or something like that and describing what your character's doing. Maybe they're, an actor and it comes easy to them to do accents, or then they could even go back to character creation, like, oh, I loved your Irish accent. Maybe this person's Irish, has an Irish accent, or whatever it is. And that kind of comes back to just knowing your players and knowing your group, which, I think we can both agree is that's kind of paramount to your success as a DM, is being able to read your group and what they want.
Well, I think, and just sticking with it too. Like, I think you start off a little, I guess I'll say wooden, but like kind of getting used to your surroundings and getting comfortable with your character and
especially for
what you want to do.
Players too. I mean,
yeah,
it's a pretty weird thing if you're not some sort of, if you don't have like a drama background or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you're just thrust into this thing where you're now essentially kind of being asked to act and perform in front of a bunch of people you may or may not know. It can be intimidating. It can also be super weird. So you kind of have to be understanding of that and just let people come out of their shells naturally.
Yeah.
Another thing I suggest for any players that are over 21 is don't get drunk, but have a shot or a beer or something, just something to loosen up a little bit before the game. Because I know for myself, when I'm running my games, I tend to have like a beer right at the beginning or something like that, and it just then 3 or 4 more.
I'm sorry, I'm just picturing. So you say a beer, but we have the most giant beer glasses. I mean, I don't know how yours holds. I think it's okay. Oh, I have a dwarven mug. I'm sorry. It holds like 3.5. It's ridiculous. And I usually go through 1.5 of those. Anyways, no, it's definitely being loose and like kind of not carrying and getting out of your shell. That's definitely a good thing.
A drink is good. I mean, that's almost a podcast topic in and of itself. Is how to handle alcohol and alcohol consumption during your games.
And some people who can't.
Well, hopefully
so many games have gone awry, but I definitely agree. Like if you're a new player and especially if you're nervous and you're not sure what to do, just have a drink and just fucking relax. You're there to have fun. Yeah. Everyone's there to have fun, and people aren't going to be shitting on you if you're not like an amazing thespian. So, and if they do, maybe you're in the wrong group. I don't know.
That was the other thing I wanted to mention is never discourage them. If someone tries to do, an Irish accent their first time and it just comes out horribly, they may be laughing nervously as well. And you can laugh a little if it's really off, but don't make them feel like an idiot for trying. They always encourage them to try.
They might be trying to sound like a gnome, but it might come out like a leprechaun.
Yeah.
I don't get the reference, but I mean, actually, I'd love to add a comment that actually, if
what an idiot!
Yeah, someone would have to be so dumb to do that. It's actually one of my favorite things. So I can't
actually, and I want to add on your point, Brett. I think that especially if it's a new player and it was like their first time doing it, throw them the inspiration or something.
Yeah. Totally.
Like it doesn't even matter how bad it was. It's like you just freaking like tried, your first like role play, actual like in character moment, and it's like that's awesome.
Yeah,
so,
I 100% agree.
I think probably like the first 3 or 4 maybe games, nothing about me was in character. It was all descriptive. I'm like, okay, well, I would probably say like, what are you doing here? Like, well, like I was asking questions. I was playing, but I was not role playing. I've gotten to that point now with alcohol and and time to get more into character, but it can be tough. Like I can
would
see that.
say you're still role playing if you're just describing your actions. It's just a different style.
Okay, yeah, sure, yeah, that's fair, yeah.
Yeah, you don't. I mean, and as you get more comfortable.
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't just saying to all the people that don't actually do an act out, you're not a role player.
You are not role playing. You suck. No. But
that's a very valid way to do it.
It's a fair point, though. I mean, you may branch out into different styles as you become more comfortable, and that's totally cool too.
Sure.
So it's just something that comes with experience, and it's like any other skill, really. If it doesn't matter if it's karate class or yoga or role playing or DMing, the more you do it, the better you're gonna get. You don't get worse by doing this, 4 times a month or whatever it is you want to do it, or 2 times a month. The more you do it, the better you're gonna get. So just don't stress out about how good you are now. Look at the future and say, I'm aspiring to be better, and that's all you really need to do.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a good point to wrap up. Just keep being the best you can be. All right. So sounds like we have some good topics for next time. We're pacing sexuality in the game and pacing your sexuality while drinking, and drinking. I mean, we'll find plenty of other topics to talk about, but
and if you want
we've got a good
specific topics, feel free to yell at Mike through social media.
Yeah, I was gonna do that, but yeah, like he said.
But only if you yell.
I mean, I would interrupt you guys.
No, that's actually what we're getting to. So we're wrapping up. Yeah, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter at Orc-Chop Express. Email us at theorcchopexpress@gmail.com. Check out the website. All right, guys, thanks for listening to the Orc-Chop Express Per Diem. You can check out our next game recording, which is for campaign Sea of Mist, episode 1. And we'll also have the campaign Eye of the Fallen, The Dark Sepulchre Part 2 coming up sometime after that. Both those games are recorded and being edited. So that's it. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Podmaster Mike.
Oh, you're so welcome.
Quite the Podmaster.
Oh, yeah.
I'm picturing some kind of crazy monster.
I'm thinking, like, I want to see him in the...
Can you guys make a Podmaster? Like,
I want you to just be dressed up as Dungeon Master from the cartoon. That would be so fucking amazing. I cannot tell you how much joy that would bring to my heart.
Good night.